Can you sort of go into things that you've gone through to try and get through that mental struggle? Because you've had a lot of sort of therapy and you tried EMDR, and you found that really, really helpful, right?
Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, in my first year of uni, I kind of was getting really bad panic attacks, and like being in public was just really, really difficult and like really starting to impact my life. And I was going back to the hospital at that point for like more checkups and stuff. So I think that was kind of impacting it. I decided to go to therapy, and I had like just a normal kind of counselor therapist. And she kind of suggested that I might have PTSD from my experience with my hip over the years, and something kind of like clicked in my brain, and that's when I was like, okay, that's something there that I kind of need to work through. So we talked a lot about that, but then eventually that therapy kind of came to an end. A year later, then I went on medication because again the panic attacks were just really bad. And then a year later, it had got better. Like the medication helped so much, but things were coming up with my hip, and I wanted to be able to deal with it better. And like just knew that I wanted therapy that was more specific to like what my experience, like yeah, like not just general like anxiety and stuff, but like someone who actually understood the impact that the trauma had had, and someone who could like kind of explain to me why the way I felt was connected. So 2023, I had EMDR for the course of a couple months, which was like a very intense experience. Like I found it really draining, very difficult, and like really dreaded it every single week, but helped so much, like helped to the point where I didn't even, I think, knew it helped. And I went a few months afterwards back to the hospital and like was able to deal with it better and like not freak out and have these big panic attacks, and like understood my own trauma a lot more and like the impact that it had. So it was horrible going through it at the time. Like it was such an intense kind of therapy, but it really, really made a difference.
Yeah. And you've got to remember that all of your experiences when you were tiny were incredibly intense experiences, especially because when you're a kid, you're actually going through an incredibly adult experience. And I think a lot of parents and the hospitals and the doctors, that connection of just like, yeah, you might be a kid, but what you're actually experiencing in the hospital is insanely adult, and having that respect for the child to understand that, and then what might happen afterwards, I think is so important. But yeah, the therapy is incredibly intense to kind of go back to that. Yeah, I've been doing quite a few sort of inner child sort of work and stuff like that, and it just keeps coming up that the trauma is stuck where I was 4 years old, and that person inside me still believes that we're 4 years old, which is why we still have the panic attacks and sort of like that intense reactions to hospital. Yeah, it's amazing work, and the mind is an insane thing, hey?